Open world games, experiences where you get to explore a giant map and do whatever the hell you want. Either commit crime, beat the shit out of people, explore a story, or just straight up explore. These experiences are great when they don't completely suck ass. And one of the reasons that these experiences recently, I would say, have been ham-fisted and not as fun to many people, well, I would say would have to be the result of a mini-map. Now don't get me wrong, mini-maps are important. They are needed to, help navigate players where to go. However, minimaps have become a detriment to exploration and really taking in the world and the details that the developers made with open worlds. Now you do need minimaps, as I've said, to make sure you know where the player is going. However, they've become more of a crutch to where it's become a, hey, let's put a check mark on where you want to go and complete this certain piece of content, but not actually explore the world or try to figure out how to get there. A perfect example of this, I would say, is city games like GTA or Cyberpunk. Now for this example, I'm going to use Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk 2077 is an amazing game. Well, after all the updates, of course, but it's an amazing game, and personally it's one of my favorites. Now one of the problems I have with Cyberpunk 2077 is the exploration. For the most part, it's fantastic. However, there's certain parts that frustrate me. Personally, the fact that they went out of their way to develop like entire streets and name them and label them and all that. This was even seen in the marketing of the game where they would talk about, hey, we have all these different like streets, like Jig Jig Street and all that, and we have like names for each street. However, that's never really matters, except in the example of Jig Jig Street, as I've mentioned. Now, one of the ways that like Cyberpunk does exploration really well, these small little exploration moments where you can say find like a corpse of a body and then maybe some drones or a turret guarding it, and you go through it, or you go through doing some parkour and you find a dead body and you get some like loot out of it, and then even a short story with these shards. Now that's great stuff. There's even moments where it's even better, where sometimes you can just trigger a quest on complete accident. Say you visit a shop in the corporate center and you like talk to this guy, and then later on you come back and a cybercycle jumps in. That's great stuff. And it was pretty good until they decided to add it as like a quest that you have to find on the map, which is annoying. My main point with open world maps is when they shove a check mark and they're like, hey, go over here and you'll find some content. And don't get me wrong, I think for like main story missions, and especially in Cyberpunk's case, like if you're doing gigs and a client's like, hey, in this general area you'll find this gig, I think that makes sense. But I don't think it's great when you're, say, doing an NCPD scanner, which is more just generic content, and it's just in your face. It's like, hey, here's this content over here, go check it out. Also, with Cyberpunk's map, it's very intrusive. And by intrusive, I'm not even talking about this giant like box in the top right corner where it's like, oh, here's the map. I'm talking also about like just going into the map, and if you have everything like checkmarked on, the map is just filled with stuff, and you have to like manually like click everything and make sure that it's not there. And that can be very frustrating. Another part is with open world maps is the fact that like, well, in Cyberpunk's case, it's really annoying trying to like, you're trying to appreciate this world that has like all this detail and all the advertisements and like the liveliness of the city, but then you look and there's an open world map. Now this is why I turn off the mini-map, because when you turn off a mini-map, what happens is, well, that distraction's gone. And this isn't just for Cyberpunk, by the way. I'm talking other games like Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, I'm talking like GTA even. The annoying part about open world maps is that your attention's focused away from like the game and just looking at a small box so you know where you're going to, say, find an objective or go to a shop. Now, I think part of the ways that this can be resolved is by just simply having the player be forced to explore and learn some of the locations and get them more attached to the open world. Now, with GTA, most people probably know like where to go because the game's been out for like over 10 years. I mean, Jesus, GTA 6 still isn't even out yet. It's been like about 13 years since the last one came out. But like games like Star Wars Jedi Survivor, for instance, integrate a map system pretty well. Now, it's not exactly open world. However, it does include a map and you interact with it by just having BD open up the map itself, which is great because BD is able to just unbelievably help out with exploration while not being intrusive. You just press M to open up the menu for the map. You can just check like what areas you've explored and where you should go if you want to find new content. It's a great way of interacting with the game immersively while also not being a hindrance towards like being immersed in the open world. But although Jedi Survivor does that, it has performance problems which make it a major pain in the ass unless you're running on like a 50 series or 40 series card, or even just running it with mods. My point is, with open world maps, they are great, but I think what developers should do going forward is take a step back from trying to like cram as much content in as possible and tell you, hey, go there, and focus more on like give a clear guide of like, hey, there's something that you can find in the open world, and maybe give a hint towards that, or mention a location and have the player go out of the way to learn where that location is and find it. Cyberpunk recently has also been doing that with one of their new quests being a Belitro reference, and you have to find different items by going across the map and using a screenshot to find it. I think that's a great way for open world exploration, and honestly, going forward, I think that's how it should be. I think in general, going forward with open world games, it should be more about exploration and less about, hey, just complete these number of tasks. Because at that point, you might as well be playing a linear action adventure game. And there's a place for that, and don't get me wrong, I think those can be fantastic. However, if you're looking for like an open world game, especially an open world RPG, and you want to have like branching narratives, and also be immersed in the open world, then that should be the case. I mean, with Cyberpunk, even though I've listed these issues, Cyberpunk can still keep your attention away from the map pretty well for the most part, just because of how well designed the open world is and how immersive it is to play and feel like you're in the city of the future. And honestly, like, it's one of those open worlds that can get you away from that. However, other games, I would say, struggle with that more because of the fact that their mini-map is just in the way, or their world just isn't nearly as interesting. Which I think, on one hand, speaks to maybe they didn't do a good job with the open world design, or on the other hand, it speaks to maybe there needs to be a better way of interacting information to the player and not just shoving a box in the top right corner being like, hey, follow that box to get to your next goal. At least that's my thoughts. But anyway, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments, and make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll do another video pretty soon. And I think I really do want to get into Cyberpunk's open world, as that is something I am interested in. Anyway, guys, see ya.